Mic check, 1, 2, this ain't a bull track or crew, this warehouse 15, but legends speak true. 3 rings on my fingers, gold medals green, but under this armor, life ain't always what it seemed. Yeah, we trained hard, pushed limits, reached the peak, but the pressure cooker boiled, man, so weeks I couldn't speak. Sponsorships to the Warehouse 15, and we are back again, and I am the Grand Master of Disaster, as usual, joined by my colleagues, cohorts, and contemporaries. How you doing today, Coach Moreno?
Man, I'm doing great. First of all, I'm digging that shirt right there, Coach TJ.
Like that?
I just saw the picture and I'm like, that's the joint right there.
A lot of
I'm
people
good,
like
guys.
that.
I'm excited. I'm going to Chicago tomorrow for one of my fast camps. I have one this month, and then I have one next month in actually in your part of the neck of the woods, Coach Grandmaster Perez in Northern California. So yeah, just got a fresh haircut.
Well, I know you're looking for those century rip. You need those century rip cords, and I'm going to send my boys century. They'll get them for the next camp. I didn't realize it was for tomorrow. My bad. So we have the beautiful century rip cords, which were designed many years ago. Coach Moreno and I used them at my first camp for another company, and then I brought them to Century, and within a day, they had a prototype for us, and they came up with a black, a red, and a green. And so they're still the state of the art. How you doing today, Coach? TJ, wake up.
I'm chilling. You checking my name. I'm chilling.
Your award. I mean, I know it's hard, man. I got my guitars still in the right order up there for you.
Yeah, and I'm chilling, having a good day. Just, excited to always sit down and talk to you guys. I'm sure we got something good for today. So I'm just chilling.
Before we start, because I know last time you gave out a shout out to your people that you kind of worked with a little bit. So I got to give a shout out today. And I don't have my product here. It's at my gym. I feel bad. But at Top TKD, they have a Taekwondo shoe out. I purchased a couple pairs a little while ago. Had some issues with the size. They hooked me up. So I shout out to Top TKD. I like the shoes. I'm going to, when I get them next week, I'll make sure I bring them and I'll display them. But pretty good so far. I like them. I got
Sifu Harinder Singh, thank you again. I'm wearing my second Budo jacket with the beautiful blue interior. The red one's on the chair. I wanted to break out the blue. I'll have a phone call made for you guys. Just send me some sizes, and we'll see if we can get you. But Budo Brothers, again, thank you. I know you put out excellent training videos. You work with Sifu Harinder Singh and others, and some great martial artists. I know you started, but this jacket, I mean, Moreno, you would look so good in this jacket. I can't even tell you what.
No. Look, you guys look good today, but no offense, but this is I'm going to give a shout out to my boy, Peter Bardatos. I got my Peter Bardatos. I got my white V-neck and jeans on. This ain't even this is like an undershirt right here, boy.
This is how
classic. I'm rocking today.
That's classic.
My white V-neck undershirt.
We've entered into sponsorship drops. I gotta find a sponsor now. I gotta plug somebody. Hey, if y'all need to plug, let me know. I got y'all next week.
You better find a clock. You got to better find a clock sponsor, an alarm sponsor. You're always a little late on our calls. We lost. Moreno left the building. Did immigration show up? What happened?
Flow, man.
What's flow?
Flow, man. Hey,
what's flow?
Come on, man. It help your thinking and stuff like this, man. You ever seen this?
Oh, I need some.
Mushroom.
No. Somebody told. You want to know something? Somebody did tell me about it. Yeah. Somebody told me about it. Well, they keep trying to get me to go back to coffee. They want me to change my coffee up for mushrooms, and I'm like, no, man. I'm gonna take.
Have you tried mushroom coffee?
I have not, but I also have not tried the coffee where it's eaten by an animal and then they poop it out, and you take those beans and make coffee. So yeah, I pretty much stay away from those kind of things. You tried it? Have you tried it?
Is it like Peruvian or something like that?
A civet,
coffee? No, I want to try it though.
Well, the civet coffee is like $100 a pound, so I'm just philosophically opposed to anything that was pooped out and then made into coffee. So. Which again, that's one of my.
And you got to pay $100 for
it. One of my problems with the USAT membership, but we got a lot of things to talk about today. But we had an interesting offline comment and topic. Coach Moreno and I, we talk a lot and we get on a lot of different topics and subjects that are important and crucial. And this one I have to larken it back. I had met an athlete a lot of years ago, and when I met him, I saw a lot of potential in this athlete. And when I brought him to my mentor, Harvey Berkey, Harvey said, he's going to be good, but he's not going to be a world champion because there's something you can't teach that to somebody. You can only have it. And that brought the question, are great athletes, I'm not talking about good athletes, I'm talking about role changing people that redefine the sport. Are those type of athletes created or are they born? Is it genetic or is it nature versus nurture? What are your guys' thoughts on this kind of idea?
You can start,
I
TJ.
think if you had to ask me, I think it's a mix of both. I think you gotta have a little something, and you gotta be given a lot of something, and then if those two somethings align, then you too can be special. You too can be, like you said, game changing or history changing or even moment changing. I think we gotta look at it that way because a lot of times we talk about top level athletes then till now. I think it comes down to generation and in the moment of what were those athletes surrounded by and what were the difficulties or hardships or the big wins for those guys. So I think it's a little mix of both. Me personally, I definitely want to say minimum 50-50. I think I was athletic when I started. I think I could do some things, but Taekwondo wasn't my first draw. I played other sports. Once I got into Taekwondo, I just kind of fell in love with it. And I think it took me falling in love with the process to kind of be able to maybe the worlds align and I ended up with the right coaches at the right time. I know I said it in one podcast, but I don't think I've ever had a bad coach in my entire life. So for that, I think it's definitely 50-50, 60-40 coaching, but that's just me.
Well, I knew that you were. I knew
Yeah,
that
I
you
mean,
you had a career in synchronized swimming before this, but I didn't know about the other sports.
Yeah, I was great. That was great. I
Yeah,
had to get off that team in high school because I started doing. And coach wanted me there early and late, and I couldn't
it's
perform under those
tough to
circumstances.
be
So
in
I
the
was trying to
water that
focus on my
long,
Taekwondo career.
but I heard you were quite a sight in that little singlet, but nobody can see. But Coach Moreno was falling off his chair. So anyway,
hey,
so
I,
Coach,
I on that note, I got to hold on. No, you went there. I'm gonna go with this classic. I'm gonna go with this classic Warehouse 15 story. So, okay, you know, everybody wears athletic clothes, and Miami is hot, and
Oh
so
my gosh.
most of the most of the ladies, most of the female athletes wear like tights and long tights, like runners tights or tight shorts. So one day, TJ, one of my other athletes, Roof, maybe one of my most
Roofie.
physical,
Oh.
physically gifted athletes I've ever had. They were like, "Hey, how come the girls get to wear tights and we have to wear like sweatpants and shorts?" I'm like, "You wear?" They're like, "Okay." So one day, TJ and Rufus show up in tights, long black skin tight tights, and I was like, I thought, okay, whatever. I mean, I don't really care. But every mom in the building was like this. Mm, mm, mm. They watched that whole damn practice, sweating, boy, in the warehouse. I was like, okay, dokie, no more tights for the guys.
Hey,
It
but
was
tights
so
changed my
funny.
life. If you could never try to chain in tights, please go get you a pair of tights. Do it privately if you have to, but it's life changing. You have no restrictions. You can do whatever you want. All of a sudden, you're more flexible. Can like do all this
I,
stuff. You're good to go, man.
had
Tights are the way to go.
I had a
Take your word for
student
it.
who was the vice president of Danskin, which is the first spandex company that made tights and shorts for ballet dancers. And so he would bring me, I would wear under my uniform the short version of the tights, the
Yeah.
dancers wear. And to be honest, it keeps your muscles warm and everything else. Besides making you eye candy for all the moms in your class, I guess. But um, there's a lot of reasons to wear tights,
No,
but I do
I
like the
wanted to.
quote, which the quote is tights changed my life. I think that's going to be this week's clip for the internet. That's the viral thing. TJ says tights changed his life.
I
Go
like
ahead,
it. I
Coach.
like it.
Listen,
Life
I know
changing.
I remember wearing them back in the day, like under my Dobog pants, and I used to like them because you're right, it kind of kept your muscles warm. But I actually liked it because my uniform would just kind of slide on it; it wouldn't catch on my body. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So,
But
Yep.
but
also, but
anyway,
also the but also the sweat too, because there used to be a lot of us training in Miami, and everybody was
it's
sweaty
true.
and gross, and putting the tights on kind of kept some of the guys from just making it completely messy all over the place. So I think,
Yeah,
like I said,
yeah,
I
it's true.
agree. I like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
quote.
but
It
it
changed my
wasn't
life.
so much. It wasn't
That
so
and
much
Taekwondo
what
shoes.
it wasn't so much what you said; it was the way you said it. You said tights changed my life. So, on this, back to the topic at
Anyways,
hand,
back to the topic.
which has nothing to do with tights.
Sorry, I have to say that.
Yeah, but the truth is, when you think about great athletes, and you can take any sport, Messi, Ronaldo for soccer, obviously, and others in that sport, or Taekwondo, Jungkook Young, and guys like this. Was a Jungkook Young born, or was he bred? Like, he had a legacy. He went through and went to one of the best universities and one of the best elementary schools and trained with the best coaches, and then was subject to the best coaches. Was that in his genetic makeup? I mean, or was it something? Can you take an average athlete and make them a great athlete? Can you teach them to be to have perseverance, determination, patience, whatever it is, and make them a great athlete? Or is there going to be a step or a bridge too far once you get them just to a certain level? Because the amount of dedication and pain that you have to endure and what it really takes, most people don't understand. So, I mean, can you take? I want to think of somebody we know. I'm going to try to think of somebody on the U.S. team. So there was a guy on that used to come to the training center, Steven Shin, and he was a nice guy. He was an average athlete, and he worked as hard as anybody could work. He was never going to be a world
Yeah.
champion. He wasn't going to be a USA team member. You can take other athletes a little further up the poll. I don't want to mention their names. They made the U.S. team, but they were never going to be a world champion. They were at best a bronze medalist, or not talking about you, TJ, but I'm talking about guys that we all know. You finally got it right. But the guys we all know that they were never going to be pinnacle toppers. They were never going to be apex predators. So is that something that's just in you, or is it something that you, as a coach, can take an athlete with a decent skill set, a decent body type, and make them great? Can you make somebody great?
So let me go. let me chime in here for a second. Let me ask the question: when do we determine if somebody is great? At what
Mm,
point of their career?
mm,
When it's over.
mm.
That's, I
Yeah.
mean, or later on after they've proven. So sometimes it's interesting when we say Muhammad Ali was great, Michael Jordan was great, Kobe Bryant, Tiger Woods, Serena Williams, you name it. We can see them going on that path, but we determine that they're great probably towards the end or when they're finished. Matter of fact, a lot of athletes get determined that they're great when they weren't great, but when they're done, we like to throw a lot of shine on them. So I'm going to say first and foremost, people don't like to hear it. You have to have certain God-given talents, whether it's flexibility, whether it's height, or genetics too, whether it's height, whether it's speed, whether it's strength. I think, because if I didn't believe I could teach and develop an athlete, to a certain level of success, I wouldn't coach. I wouldn't coach. I believe you could teach people discipline and patience and dedication and commitment. I believe you could teach, help them gain speed, power, flexibility. I think you could teach them an IQ of the game. If I didn't, I wouldn't do what I've been doing for the last 25 years. But I think at the end of the day, there is an X factor. Let's be honest. Some people innately have a bite. Some people innately have an intellect. Some people innately have a patience. And I think those people that have maybe all of that, they are the ones that become great. Michael Jordan's my favorite athlete of all time, for obvious reasons. But if he didn't have Phil Jackson, maybe he would have never been great. Maybe he needed the right teacher, the right coach, the right system to make him great. I know we'll never know. You could say, I think we could put him anywhere. Probably. But that man built a system for him to flourish, and he became great. I think there's a lot of amazing athletes and a lot of high level athletes that maybe didn't get that proper mentorship. I mean, Grandma's Perez, I mentioned your son. You told me, oh, my son he's a natural athlete. I said, is he? Or is he because you trained him to be? Because you instilled in him a work ethic. You instilled in him an intellect of understanding the game. You instilled in him how to become coachable. And for that, he's risen to where he's at right now. And yes, he's long and lanky. Yes, he's strong. But is that nature or is that nurture? I mean, it's a tough question, but
I
I
think it's
think
got to
that
be nurture. I didn't cut you off, but I like listening to that. It's more nurture than nature. I mean, if I think about like my story when I was younger, I wouldn't say when I started I wasn't the toughest kid in the world. Like I was in the room surviving over and over and over and over again. And I think my coach at the time, Coach Remark, saw that I needed to be in there and do a little bit more. He took steps along the way that at some point kind of changed me into a different direction. Not saying I'm great. I'm saying is that I've had the ability to live in a world that when I started, I don't think I was ahead of by any shot, you know. So definitely nature, definitely nurture more than nature for me.
how
I
about
think in
this? Who's
situations.
the best quarterback ever? Is Tom Brady the best quarterback ever? That
Mm,
he doesn't have natural ability. He
yeah,
has well, he's the most winning one. I mean, people call him the GOAT, right? As a quarterback. But think about that. You've seen all the videos of how skinny he is and how he wasn't first in the starting quarterback at any level until he got obviously when he won the Super Bowl. Then things changed for him and he developed himself. You look at a Patrick Mahomes.
that's what I
He
was
has an
about to say. What do
X
you think about
factor,
Patrick
but
Mahomes?
you look at his body. He's not muscular. He's not super tall. He's fast. He's smart. His IQ is off the chart, right? His creativity is off the chart. So I just think that we can look at some athletes that are LeBron James. The dude's whatever he is, 6'6", 240, built like a run. I mean, he's that's a great body. That's a great God given body, and he worked at his craft. I mean, I'm not a huge LeBron fan, but I give props where
Yeah, this.
credit where credit's due. Come on, man. I mean, the
Yeah.
guy's crazy. So, but I think at the end of the day, the special ones are special. Me and one of my coaches asked me. Actually, I'm sorry, no, it was you, TJ. We have some athletes, and you said, "Do I fix this person?"
Mm,
They do all this stuff, and I'm like, I mean, my instinct is like, yes, make it correct. But there's certain people you don't fix. They're so unique and they're so good. Herb, I know everyone thinks I blow you up, but I'll use you. You you didn't kick right. You didn't kick the classic way. You didn't move the classic way. But you were in. And if anyone tried to do it, they would have screwed you up. I don't know
Yeah.
what. I don't know if you were hard headed or you were smart, but you didn't change because maybe you knew your body and you said, "I can't do it like that. It'll make me worse." So
Yeah. So
I
for
think
me, like,
innately
yeah.
those unique.
Yeah, and that's a good question, right? So, like, I mean, for me, like, and you know me long enough to know, basically, I realized that I couldn't ever do the traditional round kick, side kick, whatever it was. I had to do something that worked for my body. Second, I made decisions that I needed to not hurt my body. So if it was something that I was doing, it was going to, and it served me well, right? I haven't had to have my knees replaced, my hips replaced, whatever. But then you both said something which I want to kind of get back to, which is there are, and I've talked about this before, weeds and flowers. There are athletes that are weeds, and no matter what you do to them, they're going to stay and succeed because they just are weeds. They don't need they don't need anything. They're going to figure it out. They're going to work hard. They're going to do whatever. Flowers, like you said, are nurtured. Tom Brady's a flower. That guy wasn't a natural athlete. He got in with a great coach, and because he was in a great coach, became a great athlete and became a better athlete. Like got smart enough, and I'll put Stephen Lopez in that category. Stephen Lopez, he was terrible at taekwondo. He wasn't good at taekwondo. His first few years, he was just a gifted specimen. He was a tall, lanky, strong kid with a ridiculous amount of tenacity. And then he got extremely good at taekwondo. He
mhm.
was a Tom Brady kind of guy. But if you take a great, and here's the question: if you took a Patrice Remarque, right, and you put him in the right laboratory, he becomes Patrice Remarque. But Patrice Remarque probably becomes Patrice Remarque regardless because he was a weed. But if you
Mm.
take a Scott Moranti, for example, big, tall guy, little slow, um, good athlete, but was he ever going to be an Olympic gold medalist? Could you have trained Scott Moranti? Could you, with all the tools that you're, and here's where you both are saying the same thing. You're saying you can take an athlete and make them better and get the most out of them. And so that's the job of a coach or a coaching program. You get more out of an athlete than they would have gotten out of it by themselves. But our conversation's above that. It's not, can you make it better? And you're both right, because if it weren't possible, then we don't need coaches. Just put a bunch of guys in a room, the weeds will figure it out, and they'll rise to the top of the pile and they'll win. And those are what I call deep water swimmers. So and you guys hear me because it's like current now. I'm dealing with my son. And you're right, I nurtured my son. He's got a body like you, Juan, and TJ. He's a lanky, muscular, strong kid, but skinny, like 160 and change, and almost 6 foot. And so that kid is a deep water swimmer. You throw him in deeper water, he swims to the top of the pool, no matter what the size of the ocean. So what I'm talking about are deep water swimmers. In other words, are those kind of kids genetically, or are they a combination of genetics and access, like you've pointed out? Or if that's not the case, I'm still talking about that guy that we've been on, with the guys we've been on teams with, that never seemed to get to the top of the pyramid. And they had all the talent and ability in the world. And they're in the same room as you and I.
Well,
So,
well, how about this one? I'll ask you this, TJ. Like for example, how many athletes have you seen that you're like, oh my gosh, tall, skinny, flexible, fight, whatever, and do things come too easy? And for some reason, they don't have that grind that some other kid has. I mean, I don't know. I feel like in Miami, I've had a ton of talented people, and they come and they go, they come and they go. But I get that one grinder that's pretty talented but works hard, and they're the ones that last. I mean, what do you think about that? Do you think it comes too easy? They leave too easy?
Yeah, I mean, for me, like I said, I think if I have to compare the two, I think it was always something to fight for. It wasn't easy, and maybe that's what you're saying. It wasn't easy. There was always someone ahead. And I think I was in a special generation. I mean, all the guys in front of us were world champions, Olympic medalists, Pan Am Games gold medalists. We were like, most of the national team had big wins at that point, and being a young
It's
kid in that
funny.
situation, yeah, being a
Good
young
point.
being a young kid in that situation is like, to get out of the country was a lot. To win the team trials was a lot, because you were beating world champions. You were in there with Pan Am Game medalists. So I would definitely say it was something to keep working towards. I don't know, I'm not even sure, outside of like you, but like I'm not even sure in our generation the young gun that just kind of ran through the table and like stayed consistent all the way through. I mean,
How about how about this though? You know what's interesting? We talk about nature versus nurture. I mean, it's on my mind right now because Wayne Gretzky's all-time goal um, scoring title is about to get passed by Alex Ovechkin. But it's funny because you think about Wayne Gretzky, unbelievable hockey player. You see that kid when he was like 4 years old on skates, he was better than everybody else. You see LeBron James with a basketball when he was in third grade, better than everybody else. Serena Williams, better, without skill, better than everybody else. So it's funny when we think about the greats, I would say a higher percentage of them
we're better from the beginning.
had something a little
Yeah.
special early on. What I think though is a misconception in Taekwondo is I don't believe there's any natural fighters,
Mm.
because in this generation of the world, at least in the Western world, you're taught the exact opposite. Don't push, don't hit, don't bump, don't fight. It's always don't. You're telling me now that you put somebody in there and they just understand how to fight? Like kids don't get in fights in school anymore. Kids don't get in fights on the playground anymore. I mean, and if they do, it's one. Where, not proud to say, we grew up fighting 5 times a week. And so you almost had someone put you in karate and you're like, okay, I kind of know what I'm doing. I was 9 years old and they put me in there and I punched a senior belt in the face and I didn't know I wasn't supposed to. I had to do push-ups on the linoleum, but I'm like, I can fight. I, I don't even really need Taekwondo. I can fight. I went on the Olympic team in 1988 and I remember they kicked the crap out of me in drills. I didn't understand steps. I didn't understand anything. But we were on the track one day and we start wrestling. I'm like, nah, fools. You guys want to fight right now? None of you little guys can handle me. So, I mean, I think that this generation are probably not fighters. They're probably made fighters. Are they a little more athletic? Maybe. Do they understand IQ of like, I'm winning, I should save this. I'm losing, I got to go for it? Maybe. But natural fighters, those are boxers, right? They're not taekwondo people.
I
That's just
think
my
they gotta
feeling.
I think they gotta love it in the beginning. I mean, maybe that special thing is the love for the game early because you get to a spot where you go to a sport which the taekwondo is not the biggest, obviously not the biggest sport in America or even on the scale of bigger sports in America. But like maybe it's that kid that walks in and goes, man, for whatever reason I want to be here. For whatever reason I like being here, and they kind of take to it a little bit more to other kids who are a little bit more in and out or not as locked in or not as focused
Yeah.
on doing that as their sport. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
I,
Yes.
I think there's definitely, I mean, there's a lot of good coaches out there. I'm sorry, go ahead, coach. Go ahead, sir. That's true too. Yeah. They have a chess degree? They have a chess. Oh, oh, yeah, yeah, I get it. I did a the other day. I asked a group of kids, people. I just because we were working on punching, and I was like, "There's something primitive about getting punched. It's like when someone slaps you in the face. It's almost like the worst thing that could happen to you, right?" And like, Taekwondo, you kick me. I'm like, okay, you kick me. But if someone punches you, it's just like, no, you can't punch me. So anyway, we were talking about that. I go, let me ask you guys. I went through every single one. I go, don't lie to me. You ever been punched in the face? Punch in the face, punch in the face. Two people said they got punched in the face, and I'm not even sure that I believe them, but they said they got punched in the face. And so I was laughing because I'm like, not that you're proud of it, but like, you know, again, growing up, you get punched, right? You get in tussles and you do it. But I thought it was funny that out of this whole group, two kids said that they've been punched before. So I was kind of, you know, it was funny to me. But I'm thinking about, I, I never say that I'm great. I think I was above average, and I think I had a certain amount of success. I think TJ, you would probably say the same thing. You know, Grandmaster Perez, you could say you were great because you achieved the ultimate goal of Olympic gold medal. Which no, I'm gonna say this because I don't no, but I'm going to say this because I don't believe just because you win that you're great. Because we've seen that in football. Is Trent Dilfer a great quarterback? He was a Super Bowl winning quarterback. So anyway, but what I was going to say is it's
But what
interesting. Real
about? But
fast.
what about? Okay, go ahead. But what about in
I
combat
was going to
sports?
say. Well, I'll get to that.
Okay,
But I was going to say. But you know what's interesting is like I would be willing to believe that all three of us right in this panel, like people applaud our accolades and they say, oh, how great we were. But people don't realize that we weren't probably the greatest, that we had to work extremely hard. And we did work extremely hard. Like you said, TJ, you had all those people in front of you, and you were climbing the hill all the time. Herb, you came in a generation when you weren't supposed to win. And matter of fact, there were some people that didn't want you to win, and you just broke down those barriers. I was like in between both of you guys. I had people that I wasn't supposed to win, and you're not the right style. So it's interesting that we all had to work extremely hard, but yet people will say, "You're such a natural. You're such a natural fighter." In my brain, I'm like, "Man, okay, it's not worth the conversation." But they
yeah,
don't realize how much nurture we actually had, whether it was Sifu Vizio, whether it was Master Patrice, whether it was Joseph Salim, whether it was myself, you know, me
yeah.
with my mentors, you know. But
I had
what did you
to.
say about the
Nah, I had
fighters?
to. I'm gonna talk on that. I had to learn to be a fighter though. Like if we're just, if truth be told from jump, I had to learn to be a fighter. I wasn't, like I said, those early days of me being a color belt versus all the black belts in the room. I mean, they ran me around the room rugged. Like I had nothing for them. To the point where it was something happened and we were fighting and fighting, and then there was a switch that changed, and I'm like, wait a minute, I can do what they can do. I got to go try to do what they can do because I'm tired of getting hit. It almost
Do you
took that
remember?
much.
Do you remember when it happened?
I remember the exact moment when it happened. For
Really?
me, yeah, I remember the exact moment when that happened. We were at a gym. We were at a gym on an army base training on like these like gym floors type thing. And I won't go into detail about the story, but yeah, that very day, I was basically getting my butt whooped, and I took one shot, and I kind of looked at the person that I hit, and I saw their face change just slightly, and I'm like, wait, he don't like this just as much as I don't like this. Let me go find out how much
Wow,
he don't like this, and that kind
that's
of
cool.
changed my whole little dynamic there. But yeah, I agree with you. I wasn't born going, I'm gonna go beat people up. You know what I mean? I knew you had to protect yourself as a kid, but I was never like looking for the fights or like trying to be in the middle of everything. Like for me, it
How
was
about
more
you?
about
How about you, Herb? That's so crazy that you can remember the moment. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
But did you win early? Did you win early? Did you win early? Like when you're a color belt? Yeah. That was different. Like,
I
you
felt
know,
that before
80s,
too. Yeah.
80s and stuff like that. It was different. 80s, 90s. I mean, yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
It's called discipline.
Yeah, but you know, the unspoken code is just was kind of a, I mean, it was kind of an etiquette type thing. It was kind of like you just knew, just like when kids were young, they knew when they were supposed to talk, and when parents were talking, you were quiet. You didn't interrupt them. You didn't.
That's
Hey, I
that
want to do
pure,
side kicks
like,
now.
old
Shut
school
the
five tenets of Taekwondo, like, those were, like, the core of everything. You function off of
true.
those. You function off of those.
Yeah. Mm, yeah. And yeah. Yeah. That's 100% learned because you can even because if you grow up in the streets, you learn who to talk to and not to. Because you mess up once and you get in trouble. And the same thing when you're young, your parents will give you a spanking or whatever. You learn that. That's not no one's innately goes, I shouldn't talk because I might interrupt. No, no, you learn that. But that was parenting. That was we we talked about leadership right now, TJ, with some of our top level athletes. You know, they should be taught how to not how to be there. person, because I think we're all unique and we should all be able to express, but there's certain etiquette that you should have. There's certain, decorum that you should have. And when people go, yeah, but you know what? You're just living in this la la world right now that you think everyone is entitled. I should be able to
But
say whatever I want. Yeah,
that's what
but
I
no.
think. But that's what I think has to be, and for will always have to remain special about our sport is that right there.
Yes.
Obviously, we want great athletes. Obviously, we want Olympic gold medals. Obviously. But all these things you guys are talking about right now matter more than not. Like you have
It
to know
does.
how to act. You're supposed to know how to act. This stuff made me more disciplined in my athletic career, so I could continue to try to excel and be in these other rooms and be in these other conversations. All this stuff is that you have to be martial. It's martial arts. In WCAF, they always said something. They said, we're a specialized sports unit in the military, but they would always say, and we used to always make fun of it sometimes every now and then, but soldiers first because you had to be who you were if the country needed you to go forth and stand for them. So it's soldiers first and athletes, and I think that goes for us. Where how I know we all want to be a big sport and everything like that, but martial arts first, and then you're a sports player. Martial artist, and then you chase the rest of it. But it's all has to blend together. And I think I'm gonna say some of the greater talk about the special people. I think they had that. I think that discipline was there. I think that little bit of focus was there. I don't know, but that's just me. I think that has to remain and be strong always.
I don't know one athlete. No, I was gonna say I don't know one athlete in our sport or out of our sport that doesn't have those. Again, we can be brash, we can be whatever, but doesn't at the core have morals, ethics, and values. And then again, well, listen, we're all we all we all have our little faults and stuff like that. Again, I keep talking about Michael Jordan liked to smoke cigars and play golf and gamble, right? But at the end of the day, everybody knows he was dedicated to being the best athlete that he could be for his team, for his the city that he represented, all those kind of things, and he's been able to go on and do other things. And when I look at the greats, they all have those morals, ethics, values. They all have courtesy, integrity, perseverance, self control, and dominant spirit. Not that we're not again without an ego or a fault. I mean, maybe I could be arrogant one time. Maybe my spirit is down, but generally speaking, it's going to be up. And I think that all the great athletes have that learned trait, that nurtured trait, flow. He is very. Yeah. I think I think that could be that's a little subjective because I get what you're saying to be honest with you. But I think you can do some of those other things and still instill some of
Yeah.
this the team camaraderie, the discipline and stuff like that. I mean, I agree. I mean, I'm a listen. When I first opened Peak Performance, I broke down a lot of stereotypes. I'm like, let's be a sport. Let's let's wear comfortable stuff. When we compete, of course, we have to get used to all that stuff. Um, I didn't have any flags. We didn't have a bow in. We bowed to each other, but we didn't bow to a flag. We didn't show any allegiance to anything like that. We at the end we got together. We did a cheer. I said a couple words. I made I made a concerted effort to break down some things that I had to do just because. There was no scientific thing about it. It was just because. Why? Because I said, okay. So I broke down, but I've had to come back a little bit because after all these generations of people like you guys that understood this stuff and said, you know what? I know how to act. I know how to be respectful. I know how to conduct myself properly in front of people. All of a sudden, I had a generation of just sports people. TJ, you said we got to keep it. They they were they might as well have been a soccer player, football player, basketball player. Hey, what's up? Sit down in the corner, and I'm like, I almost blew a gasket when I kind of figured this all out, and I'm like, well, now that's my fault because
Mhm.
the pendulum has swung too far. Now we have to wear a certain shirt. Now we have to act. Now you come to my gym. You walked into my gym right now, Gravis Press. Every single person would come up to you and shake your hand or give you a dap. I know that's not the most formal greeting, but every single kid will come up and say hello to you. I mean, and it was about me going back and teaching this group because you said it again too, TJ. When you were coming up, you were chasing people, so you learned how to act and learn how to train without people telling you. You were nurtured. When that line goes away, now we have what we have in the national team in this country. You go to the World Championships, you got high profile athletes wearing jeans and polos because they don't want to wear Team USA stuff. So, I mean, I think there's got to be a little
How
bit of a
about this?
balance to it.
How about this for culture? Like, so I had to get used to them. I had to get used to the athletes around calling the CEO, the coaches, the high performer like May, Paul, Steve,
Oh,
Gareth, and
never.
I was like stupid shocked. I'm just like, there's no way. And like then when I had to like slowly try to figure out how to tell these kids like, you don't call me TJ. Like, there's no way you call me TJ in any situation. There's no conversation when you approach me TJ, and I'm cool. You can call me Coach TJ. You can call me Coach. You can like, but to
Master,
say
whatever.
TJ, whatever you want, but you're not going to talk to me and call me by my first name. And I heard
How
this.
about
This
this?
is normal. We're talking about the CEO, and they're going, "Oh yeah, I got to go talk to Steve." And I'm like, "Who?"
Yeah, it's funny because even in listen, kids. Look, I'm not old as you, Grandma Spreads, but I'm going to be 54. Most of the people that walk into my school with their kids, they're 30s and 40s, and I'm like, hey, Mrs. Johnson, hey, Mrs. I don't call anybody by their first name, just as a respect to a parent, and for certainly someone that's older than me. I don't say. I mean, for purposes that we're here right now, I never call say, "What's up, Herb?" It's Young. It's my older brother. Like, I, it's just crazy to me that kids my daughter comes over and I'm like, you never call Deanna by Deanna. Her name is Miss Deanna or Miss Suarez. You say Miss before it. If Isabella wants to call, no, no, no. Doesn't matter. You 1000% is Mr. or Mrs. That's it. There's no question. But that's, again, being taught. When people want to be all, again, this is that new, I don't want to use the word woke, but that woke generation of people, there's a certain amount of etiquette that should stay.
It has to.
Etiquette. It's just normal etiquette. Yeah. It's not okay. That's not okay. That's not okay. Young, that's not okay. No, it's not okay. I,
Like, why would you even? Why would that even be something you say? Like, why would that, as an organization, why would you ever say the opposite of like our country got Olympic gold medals this year, this year? How does it support your story to shut and cut all that down? That's the problem. Like, that's so stupid. Stupid. That's a weird little stigma too. I always felt like that too. If I showed up to a tournament back when you had to bring your own helmets and everybody wanted those red and blue dipped Adidas helmets, you know what I'm talking about, the shiny ones. Like I feel like you can't go to that tournament and lose. That equipment was reserved for winners. You know what I mean? Like if you had that on, you probably were out there scraping people. If not, you had a white macho on like everybody else. Like it's so funny.
a white macho. Well, listen, I know we're all over the place, but I mean, for me, like, I mean, I would just, I mean, on this whole thing about the athletes, and we should talk about coaching too at some point, different levels. But I mean, I would say that I'm going to go out there and say that to be great, you have to be gifted, whether it's genetically or you have to be gifted, but your gift has to be nurtured. That's where I'm going to kind of sum up my thing. Like you have, if you're going to be literally groundbreaking cream of the crop, you have to have some God given body, God given talent, something that all of us mortals don't have. But in order to get there, you had to be nurtured. You had to have discipline and dedication and desire and grit and all the things that we all know make a great athlete. Because if not, you would have been like 98% of the other population where you see them in high school and you're like, man, tall, fast, strong, and they dropped out of college or they quit the team or they're working at some odd job. Correct. A taekwondo person? You have somebody, TJ? I have somebody.
You guys go. I'm listening.
I mean, there's I won't say anybody modern because I don't want to go there yet because I don't think I can judge them until they finish. But like, I got two, and both of them were really gifted in my era. I think one was Clay Barber and one was Hyun Lee. Now both of them won international medals, but I still don't believe, based on what I saw, the physicality, what they could do, speed, power, explosion, dynamic. I know people talk about people nowadays, but these guys they're the reason I left Chicago and went to the Olympic Training Center. Those two people, because I'm like, they're so good, they're so strong, but something was off. And I'm going to say it was partly their fault, but partly the nurturing part. I don't think they had the right mentors for them that could have got more out of them. Clay Barber was a silver medal at the World Championships once, but there was another 5, 6, 7 years that he probably, in my opinion, could have did more. I mean, he's a good friend of mine. We talk on the phone often. I have the utmost respect for him. He has a great career now. I personally think that he could have been more. Hyun Lee, I fought at the Olympic, finals, trial finals, but he was a teammate of mine before. I mean, he was incredibly talented. I mean, the guy could do everything, but I think he didn't have the right mentor. He butted heads with them. Again, I could blame a little bit of both, but I don't think they got the most out of their God-given ability. And they worked hard, but there was something missing. And I think it was the nurturing part from the coaches. That's just my point. So
I'm gonna final thought at I think it's a lot of nurture. I mean, when I start thinking back and thinking about all the stories we told, it's a lot of nurture. I think the coaches, either the athlete was special or the coach was special. Or both are special somehow. But I think the nurture from the coaches and the guidance you get early kind of dictates the trajectory you go on. And I think that's in every sport. And then I know we try to give as much credit as we can to the athletes because it's them out there that are sweating, kicking, grinding. But also for me, and I think about my career, was a lot of nurture. And like I said, again, I don't think I've had a bad coach the entire time I've done this sport. So it's got to be a lot of that for me. So nurture it is.
yeah, that's a good one. Look at Mr. T. He wasn't nurtured properly, and he couldn't. He couldn't
He should have been
overcome man.
great. He should have been great. He was the man.
All right. Peace.
Peace. Lead out.
Oh man, you messed up. Now I got to stop. Would you cut up my thing, man? What are you doing? I don't